also representing for the real herbalist, Nika T. Colorado Massive, stand up. It's the hustle, it's the hustle. Kush roll up. Colorado said diesel roll up. Nika T said kush roll up. Denver, if you got it, light it up. Yo, kush roll up in a visa. Crush it in the hand, and me darkness and double sound with diesel roll up in a visa. Keep me high day and night singing na 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 na.
Yeah, welcome to episode number 15 of the iGrow Culture Podcast. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Need to give a big shout out to DJ Nika T for letting me play music off his SoundCloud page. Thanks a lot, I appreciate that. You're listening to DJ Nika T. Big shout out to our friends at Oil Slick. This podcast is brought to you by Oil Slick. Oil Slick, tools to help you concentrate. Check out oilslickpad.com for more information. And make sure you follow Oil Slick on Twitter. Find them under @OilSlickPad, send them a tweet, and let them know you're listening to the iGrow Culture Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by naturesgreenremedies.com. Visit naturesgreenremedies.com for Gage Green Genetics, La Plata Labs, Sin City, Rare Dankness, Mile High, Canaventure, Irie Genetics, and many more trusted brands. If you purchase 2 10-packs of Irie Genetics, you will receive a free 5-pack of Bounty Killer while supplies last. And Nature's Green Remedies is running a special for our podcast listeners. Type in coupon code DABLIVE for 15% off any order, and you'll always get free priority shipping at naturesgreenremedies.com. Also, check out Nature's Green Remedies for more information about the Customer Appreciation Day sale they'll be having June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Get your chance to get a limited edition 3-pack of Irie Genetics. And don't forget, you always get free shipping at naturesgreenremedies.com. Also, we need to give a big shout out to our friends at treethugger.com. This show is brought to you in part by treethugger.com. treethugger.com, live music lifestyle magazine. Check out treethugger.com for concert and festival news and reviews. www.treethugger.com. Once again, big shout out to Nika T, playing music off his SoundCloud page. Today we're going to get into a cloning lesson, so I'm going to take a fat dab and we'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Nika T. You know it's Bobby Hustle representing for Essential Extracts. Always say OG Kush to the world. Well, if I hydrate you want, you don't know the digits. And I know about the loud, cause some boys you get with it. Sour every day, we have the Kush, we go with it. Best from the West Coast country, make we ship it up. And them not call me Bobby Hustle for nothing. Anytime you see me, I'm hustling something. Them dog got that crazy strength. I even got you covered if you still smoking haze.
Okay, I'm back. I found a funny story I wanted to share with you guys in the news before we get down to the cloning lesson. I found this in the Cannabis. It's written by Ricardo Baca. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this, but I found it highly entertaining and wanted to talk about it on the show. It says, New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd reported direct from Colorado's bustling marijuana scene again on June 3rd, whereas one of the popular columnist's last pieces talked with nudist, 420-friendly B&B owners in Denver. This one takes readers through Dowd's scary trip on edibles. So yeah, this lady bought herself some edibles here in Colorado, and she ate them and she freaked the fuck out. So the article says, in Don't Harsh Our Mellow, Dude, Dowd plans a night inside her hotel room with a marijuana-infused edible. She got no guidance from the bud tender on dosage, and she wasn't familiar with the state-recommended 10-milligram dose regarding edibles. She definitely didn't read our useful Edibles 101, 8 tips for getting the right dose piece. This guy's plugging his own stuff. So instead, she asked, what could go wrong with a bite or two? And then her trip turned into a dark downward spiral. God, have you ever eaten too many edibles? I have. It's been a really long time since I've eaten too many edibles. But when I was younger, one time I ate some cookies. I actually made them, and I threw 2 ounces of swagweed in there in a cookie mix for 24 cookies. And I baked it. And I made butter out of it, and then I baked it. The butter was green and shit, but I ate some of it, my girlfriend ate some of it, an uncle ate some of it, and a friend ate some of it, and nobody went back for seconds. Those cookies fucked us up. I was high for 2 days. I was supposed to go to dinner that night with somebody, with some family, so I went over there to dinner, and I just sat with my head in my hands, And when people would talk to me, I would just look at them like, would you please shut up? Because their voices, it was annoying trying to keep up with them talking. I felt retarded and couldn't do it. I was like, just quit, because I can't even... Nothing they were saying was making any sense to me. I felt like I was trapped in time or something, because they would talk, and then by the time I'd figure out what they said, they were about 8 sentences ahead of themselves. I was in a bad way. My girlfriend refused to come to dinner with me that night because she was too high. She ate one of those cookies. I ate 2 of them. She ate 1. We came home and we found her... Well, first of all, she called me to ask if she could swallow the lining of her mouth, which I think she meant her mouth. Maybe her tongue. I don't know what she meant, but she was super high. And we came home and found her crawling up the stairs. And my uncle, he's a 325-pound guy. He had a couple of those cookies, and his eyes were red, like brick red, for 2 days straight. He said he'd never wanted to be that high again. Those cookies, I don't know if it was the swag weed. I don't know if there was something else in there. We were wrecked, but it was no fun to be that high. This poor lady's never consumed cannabis, as far as I know, and she is laying in a hotel room, having eaten way too much of a weed edible, and she's just flipping out. So let's read a little bit more about what she says. Remember, her last statement was, what could go wrong with a bite or two? And then her trip turned into a dark downward spiral. But then I felt a scary shudder go through my body and brain. I barely made it from the desk to the bed, where I lay curled up in a hallucinatory state for the next 8 hours. I was thirsty, but couldn't move to get water, or even turn off the lights. I was panting and paranoid, sure that when the room service waiter knocked and I didn't answer, he'd call the police and have me arrested for being unable to handle my candy. So this lady's flipping out. She's so thirsty she can't reach for water. She can't even turn off the lights. She's laying there panting and paranoid. I've been in a room with a girl who was this high, and God, it was hard to calm her down, and she just wanted to do all the wrong shit. She wanted to go out in public. She wanted to call people, and I was like, no, you just got to be high right here. Just keep this high in your little bubble. Don't fuck up the rest of your life. Just keep it contained. Sometimes it's a struggle to keep those kind of folks in the right state of mind. So the lady says, I strained to remember where I was, or even what I was wearing, touching my green corduroy jeans and staring at the exposed brick wall. As my paranoia deepened, I became convinced that I had died, and no one was telling me. So she said she was straining to remember where she was and what she was wearing, but she vividly seems to remember touching green corduroy jeans and a brick wall. See, she never would have noticed that stuff if she hadn't gotten all fucked up. She was introduced to some new things in life. Poor lady. She was paranoid and freaking out. She was convinced that she had died and nobody was telling her. Just imagine sitting there in a hotel room by yourself thinking you're dead. Just thinking that you're dead. And what do? You're just going to wait for housekeeping to come find you dead and lay there? Oh, that had to be the worst fucking 8 hours of her life. So it says, this is hardly the first newspaper columnist to eat too many edibles and land in a dark place. At least Dowd didn't end up in the hospital after a weird trip like Pittsburgh Post-Gazette columnist Mackenzie Carpenter. I might read that article next. We'll open that up in another tab. We'll see what happened to her. I'll skim through it and see if it's worth reading. All right, I'll keep going on this one, though. Dowd goes on in her piece to reference the 2 deaths Denver police are linking to edible marijuana. A college student who jumped to his death and the Observatory Park man who hallucinated and allegedly shot and killed his wife. And you're going to say, why didn't you talk about those? I didn't want to give more hype to the people that they're trying to link these deaths to cannabis. I didn't want to push that story even more. I thought it was getting enough press. I chose to ignore that. I apologize if you feel left out. That was my responsibility. I thought it was my responsibility to keep my mouth shut on that one, but it's related, so we're talking to it, or about it. So she addresses issues of edible packaging, presentation, and potency, and she asks if Incredible's co-owner, Bob, is paranoid. But Dowd's most pressing observation in the column was a plea for more regulations and warnings to the casual user. I reckoned that the fact I was not a regular marijuana smoker made me more vulnerable, and that I should have known better, but it turns out, 5 months in, some kinks need to be ironed out with the intoxicating open bar at the Mile High Club. Oh, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and people are coming here and doing stuff like this. They're going to start kind of making the rules a little tighter for the guys like us that know what we're doing. So check it out. If you come to Colorado, please, if you get an edible that's got 100 milligrams, I'm serious, eat a tenth of it. 1/10. If you're new at edibles, you're going to say, I smoke weed every day. Cool. You don't smoke Colorado weed every day, and you don't eat Colorado edibles every day. These things are made for people with cancer, leukemia, glaucoma, Crohn's disease, AIDS. So people are really trying to medicate with these. These aren't candies to be fucked with. Take them seriously, respect them. Eat a tenth of it. If you don't feel anything, you can eat more. If you end up curled up in the fucking corner in your hotel room, you're going to be like, damn, I should have listened to Rasta Jeff on that podcast and only eaten a little bit of that thing. Have some respect for the edibles. Have some respect for Colorado. Have some respect for yourself. Be safe. So I said I was going to click on that other article. We'll see what happens. Sorry, I'm getting a little cold. It's a rainy night in Colorado. I left the window open. It got shivery here where I'm recording. I'm going to skim this article. The headline is Saturday Diary, Dumb and Dumber Getting a Mile High in Colorado. All right, I read that article, just as I suspected. Some lady came from another state. Her and a friend split a candy bar. It was a Mile High candy bar, actually. It was 100 milligrams. They didn't realize such. She was at the pot shop to be novel. She bought a joint to be cute. Her friend bought an edible. They split the edible. They both went to dinner. Her friend fainted because she was so damn high. Her friend got all freaked out. They ended up at the hospital. And the guy at the doctor at the hospital said this happens every single day because of edibles, and the lady kind of made a big deal about it. So that's the basic part of that story. She got too fucked up. Just another case of exactly what we are talking about. All right, guys, I'm going to go find a hoodie. I'm getting a little bit cold. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a dab while I'm finding that hoodie, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to learn how to cut some clones. Hang in there for me. Oh my god, I just hit my funny bone. Why do they call that thing the fucking funny bone? That's not fucking funny at all. My fingers are numb. Oh god. Alright, it's going to take a little longer than I thought. I'll be back. Hold on.
Dirty sound boy can't test it no. Hey, allergic to Babylon cell. In a corruption I just not dwell. Nicotine real champion sound. You know we beat the clown. Murder.
Alright guys, I am back. Got a hoodie. Took a couple of dabs. I'm feeling better now. A couple episodes ago, we did a crash course in germinating seeds and getting seeds into the soil to get started. If you guys started seeds, you should have little sprouts popping up out of the dirt and everything should be growing. Off to a good start, looking happy. One thing I didn't talk enough about was the light schedule for your new seedlings. A T5 light is perfect. I use a 24-hour light cycle when my plants are small. I don't let them sleep until they get a little bit bigger. Like I said, T5s are perfect for that. Metal halide lamp is perfect for that. You don't need anything big. Like a 400 watt is almost overkill to start your seeds. You can start them under 1,000. But it's not necessary at all. T5 lights are perfect for that, little fluorescence. So the guys that, you people that started seedlings, you can kick back and let your babies grow while we teach everyone how to take a clone. But pay attention, because you're going to be taking clones from that plant that grows from that seed here in about 2 months. All right, so I feel like if we cut clones this week and we let them get rooted over the next couple weeks, we should have clones and seedlings caught up about the same size and ready for veg here in just a couple of more episodes. So now let's talk about taking a clone from a mother or a donor plant. A mother plant is a plant that's kept in veg indefinitely so that we can take cuttings from it at any time. If you keep that plant under 24 hours of light or 18 hours of light, it won't flower if you treat it well. If you prevent it from getting root bound and you top it and take clones from it every so often, that plant will stay in veg, so you'll always have it available. Because it's great to have a reliable, dependable strain around. That's how you hear about all the strains that are your favorites. Those are kept around as a mother plant by somebody who has given them out in clone form, so a bunch of people now have those clones. The Tangy, the Gorilla Glue. Somebody somewhere discovered the Gorilla Glue, or even Girl Scout cookies. Somebody discovered the Girl Scout cookies and some seeds they had. They gave out a clone of that. They let it grow into a mother plant. They took a clone of that and gave it out. Now those strains are all over. Girl Scout cookies is available from California to New York now because of clones and cuttings and mother plants. So if you keep that mother plant in veg forever, then this strain will exist forever. You can always go to that mother plant, cut enough clones off of it to fill up your flower room, And then you can keep growing more crops and more crops of Girl Scout cookies or Gorilla Glue or Grateful Dog or whatever it is that you've grown from seed or gotten a clone of. You can keep it going forever that way. Some people are going to ask why they shouldn't grow from seed every time they start a new grow. Well, the reason for that is because seeds do show genetic variation. There will be different phenotypes, which is something we'll talk about in a later episode. But not all seeds are going to look the same. Imagine your brothers and sisters don't all look the same, but they came from the same parents. You're the same seed stock, but you look just a little bit different than each other because that's the way that genetics work. So it's good to have a clone of something that you've ran and trusted and you know is reliable. Because medical patients are limited to a certain amount of plants, and if you're running plants that are not going to be what you need in the end, you kind of might be wasting space. I heavily encourage seed running because I do like finding those genetic differences, but I've got space. I'm an experienced grower, so once you're comfortable with it, I definitely encourage you to do some seeds. But let's get back to talking about mother plants. The easiest way to find a mother plant is to get a clone that's been tested and proven. You want to know that it's a female. You want to know that it's dank, good medicine. You want to know that it grows without any trouble. So usually if you get it from a shop or a fellow grower or a breeder, your clones are going to be solid. One thing I should mention that it's your responsibility to take a new clone that you got from somebody and make sure there are no bugs on it. You can't get a clone from somebody and then blame them for having given you bugs later on. If you get mites or whiteflies from a clone, that's like not having safe sex. You can't blame it on the person that gave that shit to you. You should have been taking care of that shit in advance. So be careful with the clone that comes in. There are plenty of ways to treat for spider mites, for whiteflies, for anything. You should come up with a good regimen. Maybe that's something we'll talk about on a future episode as a way to get rid of and prevent bugs on incoming clones. One way to do it is to grow from seed. But let's get back to clones again. Now, once you've got your clone and it's healthy and bug-free, transplant your little clone into a large pot. I wouldn't use any smaller than a 5-gallon pot for a mother plant. So get it into a 5-gallon pot. Keep it under 24 hours or 18 hours of light. Some people do 18, some do 24. I like to keep my mothers under 24 hours of light. That's my personal preference. I feel like they grow way fast and they like to give me lots of cuttings and they look really healthy. So take that little baby that somebody gave you, put it in let it get good and rooted, put it in a 5-gallon pot, let it grow. Let it get quite a few nodes on it, let it get growing, and then you're going to want to take the top right out of it. Boom, that's your first cutting that you're going to want to take. You're going to kind of want to even out the height of that plant so that every node starts growing up to be the same size. Training a mother plant how to grow by pruning it properly is an art that will take you a few plants of making them look super ugly before you catch on, but that's all right. Something I do about once every year, I remom all of my mothers. So I'll take my mother plant and I'll take 6 or 7 cuttings off of it. And then I'll take the best one of that and I'll root it, or I'll get it in a cup. I'll get it growing. I'll get it into a pot. And that becomes my new mother plant for the next year so that I have a nice healthy plant, because I feel like they start getting they get root bound. They get old. They get tired. These plants are only meant to live for a year. So if you try to keep it around for too long, it will kind of lose its vigor. So I reclone it and put some youth back into it. So that's how you could pretty much take a clone that you're given or bought from a shop and turn it into your very first mother plant. Now, a lot of people don't have access to that, so they're going to have to run seeds. And I was talking about that genetic variation from seeds. So you're not guaranteed of what you're going to get unless somebody's taken it to the F4 or F5 stage, which that is a whole nother podcast we'll talk about later. So if you don't have access to good clones, you're going to need to get some seeds and run some seeds to find your mother plant. What I usually do is I run a pack of seeds, usually between 10 and 50 seeds, depending on the strain and what I'm looking for. I grow those seeds out and I pay very close attention to the veg growth, because veg growth is really important to me. I need it to be a good grower. I would like to pay attention to the way each phenotype branches out. I like to pay attention to the rate it grows. I like to pay attention to how many nodes and how many little flower sites, or not flower sites, but they will be flower sites. How many of those develop in a little cluster area along the branches. I like to pay attention. So I'm super careful to feed each plant and treat each plant the same, so that I can see what each plant has to offer without messing it up by doing something different. If it's nutrients or training or trimming or topping or whatever, I treat each one the same. So I mix up enough nutrients in one bucket to feed all of them, or in one res to feed all of these little seedlings, and I feed them all the exact same shit. I try to rotate them under the light so that nobody gets like one spot of the light has better lumens there, I make sure that doesn't happen. I make sure they get moved around so that everybody's kind of treated the same. I don't show any favoritism. Once they're big enough to give me a few cuttings, I take a cutting or a clone from each plant, and I carefully label the plants, and I label the cuttings. So I'll take, I'm super careful. I take plant A and clone A and make sure to label those. So you got your big mother plant is plant A, you got your little clone is clone A, and then you got plant B, clone B, all the way down to however many you got. You can do them by number, you can name them. I've got a friend who names them after old ladies for some reason. I've got friends that name them after cartoon characters. I always seem to name my stuff after Grateful Dead songs. Just something that means something to you. Letters and numbers work. But once I see what my clones are going to root, and I'm safe to flower out that original seedling plant, I flower it out and see what I get from them. Now, a lot of people will keep that original plant around as a mother plant. That seedling plant that you planted, a lot of people, I believe so as well. It's got more vigor. It's a stronger plant. So they want to keep that one around as a mother and not flower that one out. They'll wait for those other clones that they took to root, and then they'll flower those. But I think I save time by blooming out the original plant, so it's already grown and ready to go. And I do a technique called lollipopping anyway. I take the bottoms off of the plants where the light's not going to penetrate, those little bottom branches. I cut those off because I feel like if the light's not going to penetrate down there, there's no reason to really have that on there. It's just going to take energy from the tops where I could build big, fat, heady nuggets. And there's I've learned how to grow plants with no larf, no little tiny bud anymore. All my stuff is big and chunky just by doing a little bit of pruning like that. So yeah, I'll take a couple clones from that area, and I think those make great clones, and flower that original seedling plant. Some people are against that, but that's just, I have great experience doing it. It's already grown. You've already put a couple months into it. You've got clones of it. You're cool. But during the flowering process, sometimes I'll even pull out plants early if they show signs of weakness. I've seen plants that just grow really wispy, really weak. Maybe I was throwing away the wrong shit, but I need stuff that breeds heavily and that grows solid, so I don't want to be playing with those little weak bitches. Just the way we do it. We practice eugenics in the breeding room. Definitely. I isolate males or hermaphrodites go immediately. If it shows signs of hermaphrodism, I throw that sucker away really quickly. We'll talk more about hermaphrodites on another show, I guess. I isolate the males, and if I'm not looking for a male to breed, I throw the males away as soon as I identify them. If I'm looking for a breeding male, I already had that in mind when I planted those seeds. I've got some seeds down right now that I'm hoping for a male. I'm hoping for 3 to 5 males out of one of those packs. I'm hoping for 3 to choose from. Selecting a male is a fun process, in my opinion. So anyway, you guys should throw away your males if you're new. You don't want to have the males around. Those are going to create pollen. Those are going to put seeds in all your crop, which is probably not what you want at this point. So at this point, if I throw away a male or a shitty plant, I also toss all the clones, and that way you just took, you made space. You just took your numbers down. One thing I should mention about is, or I should talk about, you should plant, if you can, plant as many seeds as you think you're able to handle. You need a vegging plant, a clone, and a flowering plant. So think about whatever you're doing, that seedling, you're going to need 3 versions of those. So if you're able to have 15 plants, plant 5. If you're ready to have 6, I guess only plant 2. A lot of guys forget that they're going to take clones, they're going to have a mother plant, they need plants and veg, they're going to have plants and flower. So just try to keep in mind how many plants you're going to end up with, because it's going to be like anything else you fall in love with. You're going to be like, I need a plant, and then pretty soon you're going to be like, I need a room, and then you're going to be like, I need a facility, and then we've seen how it goes. You're on the internet too. So I would say plant as many seeds as you think you can safely and legally handle, but plant 1 extra, because some shit's going to die, something's going to fail. Just plant 1 extra. You're going to have to think about space and stuff. Plan ahead. That's something that I like to stress when we're growing here. So we'll let the best looking plants finish. Now, don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Like, if you don't like the way something grows, if a plant is really pissing you off, cut that thing down. We're going to grow more weed in the future. It's not the end. Some people are going to cringe because maybe you just cut down the greatest plant ever, but as a new grower, don't worry, you'll move on. I've lost strains that I miss, and you know what? I've bred more, I've grown more. I've forgotten all about them until now that I'm talking about it. So I usually harvest, trim, and cure the plants and smoke all of them myself. Not all of it, but I smoke a little bit of each plant myself. I also take a couple samples of each phenotype, and I give them to friends to help me decide which is best for them. I'm a medical marijuana provider, so I have a great team of testers for me that will smoke and take good notes. I've given them a little chart to fill out for me to tell me what they think of each strain. And I don't tell them what it is. I just label it A, B, C, D, or whatever. And they tell me what they think of each one. And then usually I agree. I usually know what they're going to want me to keep. So I let those guys smoke it. Once I've narrowed it down to a few of my favorites, I take them to a lab for testing. I should take all of them, but honestly, the labs are a little bit expensive and it's 2 hours away. And I think it's better for me to let the smokers narrow it down because they know more than the numbers do. They know more than the machines. And that's who I'm growing it for, is the people that are smoking it. I'm not trying to just grow for high numbers. Sometimes I like the plant that actually has lower numbers. Those guys like the flavor or something of a plant with lower numbers. And I think I can usually predict the high testers. I've said this plant's going to test high or this one isn't. And I'm usually right. To give you guys an idea of what some of the stuff has been testing at, I'm going to pull up a PDF I have here on my MacBook. I just have to find it right quick. I've got a lot of stuff going on here. This is, these tests were done just maybe a month ago. It's opening the PDF right now. It's taking its sweet time. So I bred a strain called Lemon Jeffrey. It's actually a lemon skunk crossed to golden goat. And she tested at 24.34 THCA. That's kind of a high test. Let me find another one for you here. The Capleton. That's the White Widow times Grateful Dog. Got to blow it up. It's real small here on the screen. That one is 20.58% THC. So that's kind of what we're testing in the 20s. We've got the Grateful Dog here also. Grateful Dog, she tested at 23.32% THCA. So that's kind of what some things are coming out at. They said at the lab anything over 17% THC is actually impressive. So that means we're doing some stuff right over here. I should probably give a huge shout out to the guys over at Steep Hill Halant Labs. They guided me through getting my stuff tested. They gave me a sweet tour of their lab and their facility, and they got the results to me in like 3 days. So big shout out Steep Hill Halant. I definitely recommend those guys. If you're unable to get your stuff tested, don't worry. That's not it's more up to the people that are smoking it than up to the labs, like I said anyway. But either way, once you've got your keeper and you've got a clone of it, that should become your new mother plant. Like if you grew out a seed pack and you and all your friends, whoever's going to be participating, smoking, enjoying, your girlfriend, your best friend, whoever, make sure that you guys all kind of agree on the same one and you keep that one. It's usually a no-brainer. That's your new mother. You're going to have that around forever or until you find something better to grow. But I would definitely recommend sticking with that strain for a couple of runs so that you can build a relationship and kind of learn the plant and see some consistency and see your improvement. Either way, now you've got your keeper, you've got a clone of it. You keep that plant around forever so that you always have clones of it and you've always got that strain to grow. I keep my mother plants in large pots to keep them from becoming root bound. I'm going to switch to air pots. They're not cloth pots, they're plastic pots, but they've got holes in them and they're designed to keep the dirt in while they still have holes in them. I think that those will be great for my roots. I'll be able to keep a mother plant happier for a little bit longer. Keep them under at least 18 hours of light. I do 24 hours of light. My lights never go off in my mother room. My moms are under commercial T5s and they love it. Make sure you love on those plants often. Love on them once a week. Go take some cuttings off of them. Keep them the right size. Trim them up. Give them a lot of airflow. Give them space. Keep them lively. Take cuttings even if you don't need them, because that makes your plant keep growing and stay active. Feed it a nice, healthy veg nutrient regimen. Not lots of nitrogen, but enough nitrogen. You don't want to overfeed the nitrogen. Take good care of them. Don't let any bugs get to these plants. Treat them with neem oil once a week if you can. If you're around other gardens or if you're around places where people have bugs, maybe you need to step up your treatment game. Maybe you need to find a more integrated pest management system, which we will talk about in more episodes. I've got a friend who's really good at such things. He'll come and help us out with that in the future. All right, so now we understand the mother plants, right? I hope we've got a good understanding. We put some time into that one. Let's actually take some clones from the mother plant or any plant that's actually in the vegetative state. You can clone from flowering plants, but I definitely don't recommend it. The hormones in those plants have changed. You've got to kind of revert the whole plant back to the vegetative state while it roots. So unless you're experienced and that strain is super amazing, I wouldn't even attempt it. I would just grow some more seeds or get some more clones. So I need to grab a drink and I need to take a fat dab, and then I will be right back and we will cut some clones together. Hang on. All right, guys, I am back and it's time to cut some clones. The first thing I should say is that the most important part of cutting clones is cleanliness. Be clean. I wear rubber gloves while I cut clones. I also clean all my tools with rubbing alcohol before I get started, and I try to make sure to have my cloning, my working, and my clone room really clean. Everything I use it's cleaned right before I cut my clones. So you're also going to need a few items. You'll need a pair of good scissors or a razor blade. You want something that makes a nice clean cut on the first try. You don't want to go sawing off little pieces of your plant here. You just want to whack it one time and be done. You need some good rooting hormone or cloning gel. You're also going to need a cup of water, and you should have some pH down to lower the pH of your water. What comes out of your tap is probably pH'd around 8 or 7. We want to get, for cutting clones, we want to get about 6.0 would be ideal. All right, so there are two ways of cloning that I want to discuss today. One is the old rock wool cube and tray and dome method, and the other is the easy cloner style method. I prefer the easy cloner because they are fast and simple, but they're also kind of expensive. A good easy cloner is going to run you probably $250 to $300 plus shipping. Plus you got to get a couple of nutrients for it. So for the cost of that shipping, you could probably get the entire setup for the dome and rock wool cube and tray style. All right. So if you're using the dome and tray method, you'll need a cloning tray, a dome to put over your babies. What the dome does is it traps humidity in and gives your clones a happy environment. You'll need rock wool cubes or something similar to that. I've used rapid rooters and I've used root riots. They're pretty much all the same thing. For this type of cloning, I use dip and grow for my root hormone. You basically just dip it in there and it's ready to go. If you're doing the tray and dome method, I also recommend that you use a heat mat and a thermostat to keep the clones warm. That'll help increase humidity and also increase your survival rate for your new clones. So if you're doing the easy cloner method, all you need is the cloner, some nutrients, and your neoprene discs to put the clones into. For the easy cloner, I use Clonex for the gel, and I also like to add some stuff called Clear Res. And I'm able to take some pretty big clones and root fairly quickly, and I can usually put them into dirt in 7 to 10 days using the easy cloner. So first I'll describe using the easy cloner method. Make sure your hands are clean and hopefully wear some rubber gloves. Make sure your scissors are clean. Make sure your mother plant is healthy. I like to water the plant with plain water the day that I'm going to cut clones from it. I'll just put plain pH balanced water right through it in the morning, and then I'll cut clones that night is usually the way I like to do it. So then I get my cloner all set up. I've got the easy cloner. I've got it filled with water. It's running. It's got nutrients in it. It's pH'd at 6.0. For my easy cloner, I use Advanced Nutrients Jungle Juice Grow and Micro for my easy cloner. I mix my solution in 5-gallon buckets. In each 5-gallon bucket, I use 25 milliliters of Grow and 15 milliliters of Micro. Okay? Each 5-gallon bucket gets that. I fill each cloner just below the sprayers. Make sure not to overfill your cloner with water because it will shoot the water all over the place. Now, once you've got it filled up, then you adjust the pH to 6.0. And make sure you have the neoprene discs in there before you plug it in and turn it on, or the water will go spraying all over the place again. So now we need a healthy mother plant and a few healthy shoots to cut off. So the lower branches are easier to clone because they're softer and the fresh roots will grow out of that more easily. But I like to take the tops of my plants for a fat clone. So from the top of your plant, find a node that looks healthy and has a nice set of fan leaves at the top, something that sticks up and looks like it'll become a nice healthy plant on its own. The top, if you've got a new plant that hasn't ever been cut before, it's already got one fat top sticking off of it. Follow that down to an intersection to where when you cut it, you're going to leave the little tiny flowers that have just, or the little leaves that have grown out of there. Leave that behind, and maybe it'll grow into 2 spots if you cut it right. You'll learn how to do it after a little while. So you got a spot that looks like it's going to become its own nice happy plant. Cut that section off. Try to give yourself about a 6-inch section. I like to clean off most of the extra leaves on the clone. I only keep the top 1 or 2 pair of leaves for my clone. So cut this piece quickly. I keep a cup of water next to me, and I drop my cuttings directly into the cup of water to prevent what's called an embolism from developing in the fresh cut. So I've got my scissors in one hand. I'll take a couple of cuts, snip. I've got 2 fat looking 6-inch cuts with nice leaves at the top. I just drop those into a cup of water, and I gather up cuts. Like I'll take however many I need. If I need 10 or 15, I'll just take them all and have them in that cup and then walk to the easy cloner so that I'm not cutting clones that sit there and have a chance to dry up. All right, so I take enough cuts and I've got a cup full, and then I start dipping my cuts into one at a time into the Clonex. I like to get a lot of Clonex on my cuttings, so I pour a small amount onto. I use a plate because it's glass and the stuff I feel like none absorbs and I don't waste it. So I pour some out onto a plate and I roll the bottom inch and a half of my cutting into the gel and I get it good and covered. And then I take the neoprene disc out of the cloner. Don't try to shove the clone into the neoprene while it's in the cloner. That's caveman style. You're going to fail. You're going to kill the clone. So take that little neoprene disc out of the cloner, open it up like a Pac-Man, and put your clone in there, and set your clone back into the cloner. So basically you cut it, you store it in that cup for just a second until you have enough cuttings. You cut it, you put it in the cup, you get your cup and over to your cloning area, you dip it, you put it inside that neoprene disc, and then you set that neoprene disc right inside of your cloner, and you leave it alone. You just cut your first clone. Now you repeat that until your cloner is full. Just dip it and stick it. Dip it and stick it over and over again. I don't even have to check my cloners for like 4 or 5 days after I start them. I just check to make sure that the water isn't splashing out of any of the inputs or the input or output slots where you plug it in and where the air hose goes and stuff like that. Just make sure the water hasn't evaporated or gotten too low. And you can mostly set it and forget about it until the clones are ready to transplant. If you're taking clones of multiple strains, make sure you figured out a way to mark everything and identify which clones you've taken. Sometimes I'll just use a sticky label and put a name on it and stick that in the row or on the front to identify which row those clones are. Sometimes I use a cup and I cut it into small, like a solo cup, and I cut it into strips like the size of a plant label, and I write the name on there and I just stick that in the little Pac-Man slot of the neoprene. You'll know what I mean when you play with the neoprene by the Pac-Man slot right in the mouth. Just put it in the mouth there, and then each clone's labeled. Be sure to label your clones if you're working with more than one strain. There's nothing like having a clone that you're not sure what it is. You grow it out and you get to wait till about day 30 or 40 to figure out what you're working with sometimes. All right. That should get you guys through the basics of using the Easy Cloner. I feel like I need to take a dab and get a beverage right quick again. I hope you guys join me and take a quick dab, and then I'll be back with the lesson on how to use the tray and dome method. Hang in there. I'll be right back. Yeah, through the magic of editing, I am back already. So the tray and dome method that we were talking about will require a little more attention. You'll have to pay more attention. You'll have to check on it. You'll have to keep the humidity high in there. You will need to set up your heat mat and a timer or a thermostat. Don't let the clones get too hot. Just about 75 degrees is right. Aim for 70% humidity. Set the tray on top of your heat mat. I've used everything from Rockwool cubes to Rapid Rooters to every brand of root cubes there are. Most of them work the same. Get what you like or whatever is available to you. Rockwool is simple and it's inert, so that's a good way to start. There are no nutrients in there. I like the ones that don't have nutrients in them. Now take whatever you've selected and soak it in water that's been pH'd at 6.0. I like to use Rockwool cubes, so be sure to soak those things thoroughly. They like to float and they don't absorb the water. They just float sometimes. So I fill a 5-gallon bucket with water and I drop all of my cubes in there and I let them soak. I pull them out one at a time and set them in the tray. You're going to select your cutting the same way as you did before. You'll take the cuttings the same way. You'll need to cut a nice angle at the tip. Make a nice long angle because that area, that exposed area is where the root tips will start to develop. So have a cup of cuttings and with nice angled cuts on the tips. One at a time, dip those into the dip and grow. And dip and grow, you just have to dip it right into there. You don't have to leave it in there. So just dip it into there and then gently slide your cutting right into that Rockwool cube. Do not go directly into the bottle of dip and grow. Pour some of the dip and grow out into a shot glass or something similar. You don't want to contaminate that whole bottle. If one of your plants has a problem and you put it into that dip and grow, now you just infected the whole bottle. Whatever kind of cloning solution you're going to use, that may work. Dip and grow, I think it's got a little bit of alcohol in there, but still we don't want to risk it. All right. Be careful not to bend or break your cutting. If you feel it snap, you can cut the broken part off if it's still long enough and try to re-dip it and re-stick it, but I would just take another cutting if you have it around. Don't waste space with one you're not certain is going to work. Try to get your cutting about a ½ inch or more down into the Rockwool cube if you can. Once you've finished cutting and dipping and sticking the cuttings, you can put the dome over the tray. I leave the vents mostly closed. I leave them just a little tiny bit open to let some airflow on the sides if you have side vents, but I leave all those top vents closed. Leave them closed for a day or two and let that humidity build up in there. Put them under a light that's always on and let them take root. T5 lights are perfect for this. LEDs are good also. Be sure to check the humidity and the temp every few hours and make sure the cubes are moist and never dry. If those rockwool cubes or whatever kind of rooters you're using, if those become too dry, the clones will die. So make sure you pay attention. In about 2 weeks, hopefully you'll have happy clones that are ready for transplanting. I feel like I've gone over the basics of using the dome and tray method. I honestly haven't done that for quite a while. Since I've gotten the easy cloners, I haven't looked back. That's the only way to go. When I do it right and I pay attention and I keep everything clean, I get about a 99 to 100% success rate using my easy cloners. They come out with big fat roots and they're nice and healthy and ready to go. So that's the way I do it. If I skipped anything or if I said anything that you felt was off, please feel free to email me. I feel like I've given the contact information out quite a few times. Just to be clear, it's igrowculture@hotmail.com. You can tweet me at igrowculture. You can find me on Facebook at igrowculture. We are not hard to find. I was looking for images to post on Instagram, and I found a forum post with tons of information and pics. I will post a link to that on the Facebook page, and I'll try to tweet it. Between that post and my rant, you should have sexy clones in about 2 weeks. Well, I think that wraps up my grow lesson for the week. I hope you guys have good-looking clones. I hope you have good, happy mother plants. In future episodes, we're going to talk about the vegetative growth stage, talk about keeping your plants healthy. We'll talk about keeping your plants bug-free. We're going to cover a lot of things on this show. I hope you guys stick around for a lot of the stuff that I have planned for you. All right, now this is the part of the show where we take a moment to give thanks to somebody who I feel has been crucial or beneficial or instrumental to our cannabis movement and or industry. This week, we would like to give thanks to a nice lady named Brownie Mary Jane Rathbun. This article comes from papermag.com. They actually wrote an article called 10 Historic Heroes of Marijuana Legalization by Abdullah T. Kid Saeed. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's a great article. We're going to give thanks to Mary Jane Rathbun. A major buzzword in state medical marijuana efforts is compassion. Seeing the relief that cannabis can bring to severely ill patients makes the laws restricting them seem cruel and unjust. The highly publicized story of Brownie Mary was one of the first to inspire this sentiment. As a hospital volunteer, she distributed weed brownies to AIDS patients on the sly. When she got busted for it, the public was on her side. Who can get mad at a sweet old lady giving brownies to sick people? Brownie Mary Jane spent most of her life dedicated to charity work and was instrumental in the passage of California's Proposition P and Proposition 215. Now, this was a time before marijuana acceptance, before medical marijuana. So this lady had huge balls for being an old lady. We give you a huge thanks. I personally appreciate and hugely respect what that lady did, what you did for sick people in need, for people in the hospital on their deathbeds, trying to survive, trying to be happy. We need more people like you fighting the good fight for us. So we give you a huge thanks. Thank you, Mary Jane Rathbun. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this show up. I went over time a little bit. I wanted to be closer to 40 minutes. I'm already getting close to the 45-minute mark. Before I go, I want to remind everybody to leave some comments. Now that the show is over, go to iTunes, go to the iTunes store, search for iGrow Culture. Find the review section, give us a 5-star rating, type in a comment, let me know what you think about the show, and I will read your comments on the show. Don't forget that the show is available on iTunes, Stitcher, swell.am. I have a hard time with that one. And you can always find the show on iRegeneticsColorado.com. There are limited episodes available on most of the services like iTunes and Stitcher, but over at iRegeneticsColorado.com, we have every episode posted from 1 all the way to whatever we are up to. Number 15 will always be there. Keep them all up there all the time. On the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about some change in some Jamaican laws, and we'll get a little bit more into grow class, and we will have Jesse back soon for more outdoor grow lessons. Stay tuned, keep listening. I'll be back in about a week with another show for you. Till then, take a fat dab, give your mom a hug for me.
Hustle representing for the real herbalist, Nika T. Colorado massive, stand up. It's the hustle, it's the hustle. Kush roll up. Colorado said these are roll up. Nika T said kush roll up.